you are alone. On this floating star, this man-made mass in the void of space. You look out only to see the endless stars in front of you. You have no family, no friends. Only your Imperial crew you now swear by. You are on the Death Star, and this is what your life is like. Hey guys, my name is Ryan with the Star Wars headquarters, and we're taking a look at what life would have been like on the Death Star. We'll also be diving into the history behind this massive station, which was often mistaken for a moon. So let's start off by breaking down the numbers. If you look at this shot as seen in Rogue One, which shows Star Destroyers looming outside of the Death Star, you soon realize just how big the Death Star really is. Keep in mind that these Star Destroyers are 1,600 meters long and house 9,700 stormtroopers, 72 TIE fighters, and many more spacecraft. So this makes you wonder just how many people are on the Death Star. Well, the Death Star houses millions. That's right, millions of individuals and thousands of spacecraft. It is 160 kilometers in diameter, and many approaching victims mistake it for a moon before being captured. Now, living on the Death Star as one of its millions of crew members would be like living on a planet, and you could have one of hundreds of jobs. You could be one of its stormtroopers or perhaps an elite gunner in charge of the station's advanced weapons. Maybe you're a TIE fighter pilot impatiently waiting orders to get into the action. Or maybe you're one of the jobs born out of necessity, like a janitor or chef. After all, someone has to maintain the facilities and make sure everything is nice and shiny for when Darth Vader walks through. Keep in mind, as a military crew member, your tour on the Death Star will last at least 180 days and most likely much longer. In fact, contact with family and friends is not allowed due to the fact that the location of the Death Star is always classified. And because of this, stress levels increase and tensions rise, but don't worry, the Empire is always thinking of you. They have been kind enough to include restaurants, cinemas, fitness centers, and medical wings, all in an effort to prevent you from losing your mind. And as you roam the Death Star's many hallways and decks, you'll feel pretty much unstoppable. Maybe also safe. After all, how could someone take down something this big, something so indestructible?
I rebel.
Well, as you know by now, that's where Jyn Erso and her crew come in. The plans that were stolen by the Brave crew in Rogue One reveal the Death Star's superstructures, which include ion engines, hyperdrives, hangar bays, and even power cells that are 15 kilometers wide, which are responsible for powering many of the Death Star's interior rooms. However, the Death Star's major weakness revealed by these plans is its thermal exhaust port, which runs clear to the center reactor. And little do you know, as you continue your day-to-day operations, that the Death Star is now a target and is more vulnerable than ever. But the Death Star did much damage before its days were finally numbered. Its main weapon, the super laser, struck fear into enemies of the Imperial fleet. The primary control room, called the Overbridge, sat right above the super laser dish, and is where commands were given by Grand Moff Tarkin to destroy entire planets. Its first victim was the planet Alderaan, which at the time of its demise had billions of people living on it. That's right, billions. Think about that. Before the Death Star was destroyed, it had done so much damage that it had wiped out an entire planet from the galaxy. This act alone instantly made the Death Star the most feared weapon in the entire galaxy. We must also not forget about one of the biggest historical moments on the Death Star, the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan became one with the Force when he sacrificed himself so that the rest of his friends could escape. But his death wasn't in vain, as he became one with the Force and eventually guided Luke to destroy the very same place where Obi-Wan gave himself for the cause. As an Imperial soldier, you would have been a part of all of this and seen as the ultimate enemy of the rebellion. But on the other hand, being a part of the crew on the Death Star would have certainly earned you some sort of prestige amongst the Imperial ranks. Walking into an Imperial bar, you would have been the one with the biggest story to tell. That is, if your tour would have ended before the Death Star's ultimate demise. Being on the Death Star, you were the biggest target of the rebellion, and millions of Imperial soldiers died in the explosion when Luke Skywalker fired his weapon into the weakest spot of the massive station. It must make you wonder if those who died on the Death Star were all horrible people, or if many of them were just forced to do their job and were simply on the wrong side.
A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know what it is and how to destroy it.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.